I'm super passionate about helping people find their just brilliant zone of genius, their unique ability. And with a background in media and now being a coach, I think it kind of transfers really well. I'm really passionate about everyone has a unique gift. And if you show up online in a way that you think you should show up, that looks successful, like this person's done this, so I'll try to emulate that in some way, you lose your individual spark. We're all following, an aesthetic, or we want to be a certain way, or we want to show up in this certain way, or this is the thing to buy. And it's really not like it's the individuality. And so I celebrate and welcome everyone's individual beauty in their different ways. And I'm really, really passionate about doing that.
It shows in everything that you post, everything you share, this commitment to let's help you find where you shine. And I appreciate that you said it's a hard thing to communicate, even when this is what you're working with, because I feel like it always changes. I know my zone of genius when I started 11 years ago is not the same as it is now, will not be the same in 5 years. But you said something that's really interesting I want to ask you more about, which is this idea of everyone kind of following a uniform way of marketing, of branding, of showing up, of messaging. And I feel as if I started in person business, and I feel like that was a lot easier to be your unique self because people show up and they see your quirks and the way you do things. And online, it seems a lot harder. So I'm curious to see, what are some of the ways that people can really tap into their special part, their individuality? How can they show that to the rest of the world? Because it feels intimidating, to be honest.
You're met with slight resistance because you're attached to the outcome, right? So you have to just release the outcome of thinking that actually, if I put this out, this piece of content, and it doesn't do well, this means this, this, and this. It really doesn't. You need to think about why you're showing up, your why, your passion, and like what's the purpose of the content. So is it just to entertain somebody? Is it just funny? Is it something that you're passionate about? Does it show your personality? Is it educational? And once you kind of get familiar and comfortable with those like pillars, for example. So, a little bit of behind the scenes knowledge for you. I was somehow in this Meta Creators UK group, which was you kind of like some creators got invited to it and we join and we have 2 weekly calls with people at Meta. Like it's wild. They're really trying to help you. And one of the workshop is all about reels. And as of literally yesterday, like one of the workshops was yesterday, they were saying how it like we all just need to simplify the process. And I think as business owners and especially in a service place, we're trying to give so much value all at once, but actually what we're doing is diluting our message. So for example, he was talking to me about goal setting and he said, rather than do one reel, on goal setting, he's like, why don't you think about ways to set goals, what to do when you fall off track, how to recognize if it's the right goal for you, why you've got blocks around goal setting. He's like, there's 5 bits of content there that you're not even thinking about. And secondly, they were saying how everything is a story and to share your story more. I think, again, like trying to take what TikTok are doing, which is get very much huge storytelling app, which I love. And I just end up in the TikTok scroll for hours. And I'm definitely not the target audience, but we move. It is what it is. And I think they're trying to really emphasize that Instagram doesn't need to be polished anymore. And we've got this real block around that because it started as a photo app, right? And so everyone had these beautiful polished images and these perfect grids. They were like, none of that matters anymore. Like, literally, none of that matters. It's about getting your content out there, telling your stories, showing up, and not being afraid to show up, and do not be attached to the outcome. He said, you might think of something as a failed bit of content. That content might resonate with somebody and speak to them on a level that they've been looking for. And a few months later, they might inquire about working with you. He's like, just think about that. And also, you're not making content for your family and your friends. And I think we get really afraid about what people think. Maybe it's with age now, I just do not care. Like, you can say negative things about anything that I do or like what I look like or anything. I genuinely don't care because it makes no difference to my life. I'm not attached to the outcome of it. And so I think when you do that and you just start creating and you let go of that, it feels better. And knowing that Instagram and Meta are really wanting you to tell your story. Loads of coaches now are doing comment this below, comment this word or emoji, and we'll send you all of this using ManyChat. It's called engagement bait, and they have 25 separate things looking for that now. So if you put that, it will be downgraded like 100%. They're like, he was like, whatever, like, he's like, do not do that. He's like, find a cleverer way to get people to engage, because as soon as you start to do that and they see loads of people commenting the same word, it's just served down.
This is definitely the insider scoop, the stuff that we don't know, and anyone will tell you on this podcast. Like, I will talk all about visibility, I'll talk about shows, but the area where I'm certainly weakest that I don't focus on is the social media, and so that it's really interesting to hear this, that it's actually less pressure to create that way. I remember, how long have you been on Instagram for? A while, I'm guessing, right? The amount of photo editing that I would do for all this stuff, and in the end, it's not what people resonate with at all.
I think as well, it just gives an illusion of your life being really put together. Like, I'm really trying to show up in a much more authentic way and show up as imperfect, because I definitely am. Like, and I think then people, it speaks to people on a deeper level. I think if you're looking for quick win, short term connection with somebody, a beautiful aesthetic image, trend led, something like that is great. But if you're looking to build community and longevity with people, you need to speak to people on a level that they can resonate with. But behind it, there has to be strategy. I'm very strategy led, and there has to be a reason that you're doing something. So, for example, I have a weekly newsletter, I have a weekly podcast that goes out. Everything's tied in to a reason for me doing that in what season in my business I'm in. I'm not just putting out random things. There's thought behind everything. And again, sometimes that goes out the window because life is life, right? And things happen. But at the same time, when you have purpose and your vision behind everything that you're sharing, then the only disservice you're doing is to yourself to not share it. And you're going to get negativity, right? But everyone does.
Worrying about what family, friends will think or the stranger is only going to cloud your creativity, and it's only gonna stop you from connecting from people because for every troll, there's probably 10, 20 other people who, even if they don't engage with what you're doing, really appreciate that you shared that message. If it is, like you said, a story, something that helps. I always think, like, celebrate your first troll. It means that you're touching something.
Had a couple in the past, like years ago now, that were just wild. And you think like, I'm here online to actually help people. Like, and you're giving me hate? What? Like, that's a you problem. That's not me. That's got nothing to do with me. So yeah, it's just accepting that that's going to happen, and it doesn't mean anything to you, and that it shouldn't dilute you. Like, it obviously affects us because we're empathetic people.
Any kind of troll, because we know there's different categories. There's the ones that have no face. Those are usually, I really ignore those. They're almost like bots, those ones. Then there's someone where you really touch a nerve with what you said, and usually it's because they are doing the opposite of what you're talking about, or they've been second guessing it, or it touches on a value, but all of that stuff only serves to build your awareness and also to kind of siphon out your people, because if someone doesn't like a value you shared, then they were never going to join your community anyway, and it's better to get them out as soon as you can.
I try to think of it as like a pendulum swing. So, like, we're at this side doing all this good work and trying to show up and share our message and help people. And that can trigger someone so badly that they swing to the opposite side of the pendulum, right? And whereas what you really want to focus on is like the people in the middle, like the people who are trying but need your guidance. Like that's your audience. So don't worry about like the 1% of the people who are at the extremities, because at the end of the day, that's not going to be the person that you like, rightly so, like you said, that's not your audience anyway. So just give them like, you know, 10 minutes of time to be like, "Ah, how can somebody write that about me?" Get, like, really annoyed, like, send your partner a voice note or a screenshot, and then move on.
If you have this zone of genius, you can't stay in it if you're focusing so much on that external noise. will knock you right off. And I wanna make sure I ask you really about this because I know you focus so much on helping people in it. What are some of the, questions that you would have someone ask themselves or even maybe that you ask when you're working with people to get them thinking about what is the area where I shine? What is the area that is my zone of genius right now?
What are you happy to deliver over and over and over again for years and talk about passionately? Because if you're in it just for money, what are you really, really passionate to talk about over and over again? And some examples of things that I am super passionate about and I know that I lean into constantly is helping people find their zone of genius, helping people to master their message, and creating a pitch that's almost like the complete amalgamation of their vision for their life. And I have a background in advertising, so I know that comes more naturally to me. Like I did that for almost a decade. Without knowing your zone of genius or knowing what you're really, really passionate about, anyone can put together a pitch. And again, if you're looking for a quick win, like, oh, I've seen this topic in the press a lot, so maybe I'll do something about that, that it just isn't going to work. I've been delivering relatively the same themes for 9 years in companies, not to blow my own trumpet, but I get really good feedback because I'm a real people person and I really want to connect with people and understand what's affecting them. How can we work differently? How did you find that? I'm like all about the delivery, and then give me the feedback 2 weeks from now. Like, how are you implementing this? How are you finding it? Like, how is the process? Like a genuine deep passion for people like finding their zone of genius and excelling in their areas. That's kind of like the opening thing I would say to anybody. And I remember sitting with a client, I do strategy days with people, pull apart everything. We strip back everything that you think you should be doing and we focus on what you need to be doing. I remember sitting down with somebody and she's amazing, one of my clients. And I was like, what is it that you like about your business? And she said, nothing. Okay, this is going to be a challenge today. And by the end of the day, we had rebuilt everything. We'd found a specific topic that she's passionate about. We'd found the sector that she wanted to work in. Off the back of that, she's been booked by 2 companies already. And it's because she wasn't hyper focused on what she thought she should be doing. I've honed my craft for years. Like in the beginning, it was not this systematic. I'm still winging it half the time, but let's be real. Like, again, like we're all in the process, right? Getting away from the noise and recognizing and understanding that actually this is what I need to be focusing on. And I'm just going to put the blinkers on and go for this 100% and see where it takes me. And I'm going to work with someone and get a strategy around this and create a plan and go with my plan. And I say it now and I'm thinking, God, that's really simple. And maybe that's a really simple answer.
Someone compared it to where you build all these bridges across like two land areas, almost like 2 islands, but then you stop building them halfway through and they just collapse, and then you never get to the other side because you haven't focused, like you're saying, on this one thing, on being very clear, like you've done in your strategy sessions too of, "Let's strip it down. Let's really go to what is it that you can focus on." This idea of working with companies, I think is an amazing revenue stream that a lot of us don't think about because we don't know how to begin or what to do. What are some of the ways that you help people consider, "Okay, this is my zone of genius that I can offer in that setting?" What are some of the ways? Because it's very different than offering direct to the customer.
First of all, you have to really understand what type of company you want to work with. So I get a lot of people will say, I really want to work with this cool wellness brand or, this, I don't know, beauty brand or something. Often what you'll find, and this is a vast generalization, but those brands have way less money. The brands and the companies who are like manufacturing, tech, deep tech, fintech, AI, like those types of companies are actually the ones that you should be focusing more towards. Finance, if you can bear it. Those types of companies are the ones that need the support. What I've found in the companies that I've worked with a lot is they're very male heavy. Again, these are generalizations, but it's kind of reflections of what I've seen in my experience. The women, we do more workshops, we go to more yoga classes, we do more self development, we do these. Again, this is a mass generalization, but a lot of the male heavy companies are working very siloed, headphones on all day. And actually, for me, like, I want to speak to these people and I want to help these people. And one of my workshops is called How to Have a Coaching Conversation When You're Not a Coach. And I'm trained in transformational coaching. So it's very much working on transactional analysis and ego states and understanding like what the tiniest interaction can mean. So I think understanding the type of company you want to work for is really important. And again, is it attached to your values and your mission? And next, you have to not be afraid of rejection. I get rejected all the time. I got an email, it's so funny, it's on my TikTok. Again, my TikTok's slightly unhinged, and I have like 200 followers. I'm like, think, who am I talking to? God knows. But somebody, I was talking to a girl in a company and she CC'd in her boss and they just replied and just said no. Just one word, no. Bearing in mind, I'd done quite a lot of work as well. And I was like, you know what? Stay humble. That's fine. Keeps me grounded. That is all good. That is fine. Understanding that actually, this company right now, maybe that's not top of their agenda. So it's nothing to do with you. And I think if people get intimidated about thinking about talking with companies, I would say to reframe this and think that companies are just made up of people. Find the people you're going to resonate with and speak to them and just speak to these people on a human level. And then the more you do that and you build a rapport, the easier it'll be. I say, you can have one workshop charging, £2,000 or something, or you can try and sell, 10 different low ticket things to 10 different clients. It's a much more efficient way to work. And it is lucrative, but also similarly, they expect the highest standards. So again, if you're not passionate about it, they'll see through it. You won't be booked again.
There's so many pitches I do, for example, to be on shows, and for me, I don't even put it in the no. Even if I get that one word no, it just goes into the circle back category. A lot of rejection, and I think too, it's interesting how you've said to really think about the companies you wanna work with. I mean, your knowledge on this is so huge because I also would have thought, "Oh, yeah, I wanna work with this beauty brand, this clean beauty brand, that's what I want." But it makes sense that they might not have the budget, they might have the need. So I think that that's so valuable to think about outside the box companies you could work with. Do you find there's any difference in this is getting a little nitty-gritty, but I'm fascinated by it, and I think everyone listening will be too, and it's you really know this area. Do you find that there's a difference in pricing or perception of value when you deliver the services like the workshop online versus in person for the company? Did they distinguish at all?
Again, it's down to your pitch. So for me, like when I'm pitching for an online, if someone's based in the UK, I'll always push for it to be in person. But then you can argue that the ROI is higher if it's online because it reaches a global audience. So then everyone in every different office can log on, which I think again adds a different level of you understanding different parts of the company culture. I lead a 6-week transformational coaching course and I pioneered that with a tech company. And we had people logging on from Silicon Valley, London, we had Asia, and we had Australia. So can you imagine you're coaching very different cultures, very different working environments, and I'm telling you now, like as a service provider, the amount of value that I got and I learned from hearing from people in these groups was wild. And similarly, people in the companies were like, I never have spoke to anyone in that office before. It's amazing to think of it like that. So I think everything is in your pitch and your messaging. And, I help people do that. It's so important to understand every minute detail, like your language, that you'll know when you go on a show, I know when people have applied to come on my show when it's just copied and pasted. Oh my God. Oh, when they go, I love this episode and it's your most recent title. And I'm like, tell me what you loved about it. And like when you pitched to me, I listened to one of your episodes and I was like, she's great. Like she's just kind. She's like vivacious. She's got great energy. I'm like, perfect. Yeah, it's an easy yes for me. Great. And the pitch was lovely. Like you can just feel the difference. Well, so can a company. And now because everyone's waking up to wanting to work with, reaching out to leadership and development and wellness coordinators and all of these people, they see things all the time. You have to be different. You have to be building relationships and knowing that it's going to take time. So I remember one of the first tech companies I worked with, it took me 6 months to get onboarded. And if I'd have been looking for like the short term win, I would have got frustrated and probably ruined that relationship. And now I still work with that company. It's been 8 years we've worked together. Really think about how you can benefit them. If you're leading with, I want to work with this company, it's the wrong thing. If you're leading with, this company will benefit so much from X, Y, and Z that I can offer, let me communicate that. They will understand that and hear that and resonate with it. You'll be working with these companies, you can get on a retainer, you can have this coming in. You can then go to those brands that you're really passionate about, like the clean beauty brand, and you can take something that's way less, but it feeds into your passion.
The knowing who you're pitching to, being very personal in the pitch. I'm like you, I get,
Mm.
people who wanna be on the show and agencies too that people have paid thousands of dollars to pitch them. It blows my mind that people well, they don't know, right? Because it's all in the marketing. You think you're getting a lot of support, but you're not. But I think the pitching is really important, understanding that it's a skill that helps to have support in. It makes a really big difference, and also, like, the different ways to build the relationship that you talked about, because even if you're not pitching companies, we have a tendency to think, "Well, if people don't buy immediately, then that's not my customer. That's not someone I'm gonna focus on, I'm not gonna nurture them anymore." And I'm sure besides the six-month wait period, you've probably had people reach out to you that were in your ecosystem years ago. All of a sudden, they're ready because it's the right time, the right offer, the right marketing.
Totally. And I think if you're serving your audience constantly and giving value, when it's the right time for people, they'll come to you. And not everybody is going to work with you, but they can support, there's ways to support people. You can like their content or share their content. It's free, share your friends, share people doing this. And if you can't afford to invest, that's totally fine. You can show up in a different way. If you're just doing it for monetary value constantly, people will see it. People want to see your passion and your expertise, and that's what kind of bringing it back to what we said at the beginning. It's just really important to just keep showing up and not be disheartened. And we all have quieter months. Like the summer is crickets, right? Like it's like every summer comes around, and I'm like, wait. I shouldn't be surprised by this anymore. I'm just gonna start taking the summer off because there's actually just no point. But then similarly, September and January are wild. That's just how it is, and that's absolutely fine because I'm really passionate about it.
If you could only choose 3 things to say about the work that you do, getting people involved in it, related that you wish people knew, like, you could only tell them 3 things about the work that you help promote or ways you help them grow, what would be the 3 things?
My mantra that I use with every client is that it says, I have unique and valuable things to say. And so I want everyone to remember that all the time. Like, I have unique and valuable things to say. Get really used to rejection and being rejected. It's not personal. It just, more often than not, it's just not the right timing. And like you said, I love what you said. It's not a no, it's a circling back. Because that is the thing. Get super organized, like put things in your calendar of when to go back to people and be bold with your passion. No dream is too big. Bold with it. Don't hold yourself back.
They hear that inspiration, they're ready to go for it, forget the trolls, start sharing the story. How can they connect with you, and what are the ways that they can work with you?
Thank you so much. Yeah. So the best place to connect is probably just on Instagram, just at Kirsty Rayner, which I'm sure you'll have below, and that'll be easy to reach me. It's just my name. I am working with an incredible coach and business partner called Lucy Sheridan, and we are just releasing in September. So we might have just missed the like intake, but it's a course called Corporate Connect. And we are teaching people over 3 months how to work with corporates. We have both done it for a decade. But yeah, the main thing is Instagram. Come and say hi.
Thank you for creating that, it sounds like an amazing resource, we'll include links to everything.